Hello everyone and welcome back to Quantum Summit 2022. My name is David Schönwert. I'm a policy officer for data economy at Bitkom, and I welcome you back after this lunch break. Just a quick recap. This morning we talked about qubits, we talked about open source, and we talked about plenty of wonderful industry applications. What's next is post-quantum cryptography and the question how encryption can be developed further. For this, with me is René Meusel, who is lead security engineer at neXenio, and Lukas Zeller, who is a senior software engineer at neXenio. They will talk about how the most secure quantum computer-resistant methods currently available can also be used can be used in practice without specialized background knowledge. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks.
Still getting ready, very good. Feel free to start once you feel like starting.
Yeah, sorry, my tech lost it here. So thank you for the introduction that I unfortunately couldn't hear. We're happy to attend the Quantum Summit today. And as we've seen in several previous talks, quantum computing promises rapid advancements in computer capabilities. Though in a world with powerful quantum computers, we will also face new challenges. You might have already heard about that. Powerful quantum computers can break cryptographic algorithms that have been around and in productive use since the 1970s. So are we actually seeing a threat to the privacy and security of our modern connected society? The short answer is yes, absolutely, if we don't prepare for it. So most of us might not even notice how much their everyday life depends on the strong security guarantees cryptographic protocols provide. Browsers use TLS to encrypt data traffic while we're surfing the web, for example, to secure credit card details on some online shops. Messaging apps protect the thoughts you share with your friends and family. Here, even the service provider itself has no way of reading your messages. Credit cards contain a tiny cryptographic chip that secures each and every payment transaction you do with them. And the list goes on to car keys that you can keep in your pockets nowadays, secure online banking, health insurance cards, and all of those things require trustworthy cryptographic protocols to work. The bad news is these algorithms employed in our current protocols nowadays are not fit to withstand an attack by a powerful quantum computer. So let's look a bit deeper into why that is. Commodity crypto algorithms can be categorized into two groups. On the one hand, there are symmetric algorithms, symmetric cryptography, where the communication partners need to share a common secret. For an attacker, it is practically impossible to guess that secret because it is just too much possibility to try. To have a rough intuition, the key space of AES 128 is comparable to a perfect password with 20 characters. Now that doesn't seem very long still, but even with today's cloud computing power, this guess is just not feasible at all. A quantum computer, however, running Grover's algorithm is able to improve the attacker's odds by a lot. The good news, this attack still doesn't scale very well. So simply using longer keys is sufficient to keep quantum computers out here. We might just use AES 256 and are good to go. Unfortunately, symmetric crypto on its own is usually impractical. So to communicate securely, it needs a shared key. But how do I tell others about my key without being able to communicate securely to them in the first place? So this is where public key cryptography comes in. It allows us to simply send a public key that does not need to stay secret at all. The message is then encrypted by the other party using a hard number theoretical problem where the mathematical complexity keeps the message secure from attackers. So the security guarantee is roughly the same as with AES 128 for algorithms that are used nowadays. And only the legitimate owner of the public key holds some additional information, the so-called private key, that makes it easy to do the math, solve the mathematical puzzle, and retrieve the message again. And today, almost all cryptographic protocols use this concept to exchange keys and communicate securely over untrusted networks. Here's the catch, though. A powerful quantum computer running Shor's algorithm can use quantum effects to pretty much cheat in this mathematical puzzle. It does not need this private key, this extra information, to solve the mathematical puzzle in a reasonable time. And unfortunately, also this attack scales very well. So extending the key length of those asymmetric or public key algorithms doesn't really buy us much time. Therefore, we need to come up with new mathematical puzzles for our public key cryptography that a quantum computer cannot cheat in. And we need to do this before quantum computers can handle enough qubits to pull this cheat off in the first place. So Lukas, tell us about how many qubits do we actually need?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer, but based on recent estimates, 20 million physical qubits yield 4,000 logical qubits, which breaks RSA 2048 in about 8 hours. In practice, the key size is often larger, but similarly vulnerable, and elliptic curves are broken even sooner. So we need several million physical qubits. And where are we today? IBM announced 1,121 physical qubits for 2023, so we still have a long way to go. But this number has roughly doubled every year since 2020, indicating a Moore's law for quantum computers. Now, here's a plausible trajectory for breaking RSA with classical versus quantum computers. The Y scale is the key size effectively broken. To date, the largest broken key size is 829 bits. This number is growing slowly, as indicated by the orange line, but not at an alarming rate. With quantum computers, however, that number can start growing very quickly. How quickly, you ask? Well, nobody knows for sure, but almost all experts expect a quantum threat within 20 years, half even within the next 15 years. Now, it's worth making clear that these numbers are estimates. The real number may be much smaller or even never, but this is the best information we have today, 15 to 20 years. Not great, not terrible, which begs the question, what do we do about that? NIST, the USA's National Institute for Standardization and Technology, has already been doing something. Back in 2016, they called for proposals for quantum secure public key algorithms, and about 70 proposals were submitted. We're now in round 3 with about a dozen left, and that round will be completed any day now. Germany's BSI already decided not to wait and recommends using today's algorithms together with post-quantum algorithms, so-called hybrid schemes. Some service providers already have experimental support, but it's not entirely backwards compatible, especially with dedicated hardware like middle boxes. And once the NIST finalists have been fully standardized, we enter the adoption phase and can expect to be ready before our data becomes vulnerable. Now, there are several challenges. For one, it's not clear how soon round 3 will be finalized. But assuming the timeline for standardization is on track, the result isn't a drop-in replacement. We're already integrating the new algorithms into existing protocols, but next, the infrastructure needs to be updated to support this, and then existing products need to switch. For some products, this might not be possible at all. Those will need to be retired. Another challenge is your data shelf life. Imagine today, I could read your chats and emails from 10 years ago. Does that worry you? Any passwords you haven't changed since then? Any files you don't want public? That's kind of a scenario that you can expect once quantum computers are around. And as always, performance is a concern. We want our data to be secure against classical and quantum computers, but we still want products that are easy to use. On that note, let's look at our current options. there are several quantum-resistant mathematical foundations, each with their own trade-offs. In particular, consider the memory requirements for key exchange. As a reference, we have RSA and curve 25519. The most pressing bottleneck here is communication, indicated by the orange bar, followed by the public key size, indicated by the white bar. And if these bars are small, we're happy. What we can see is that all post-quantum options are more expensive than RSA here. And RSA is already plenty expensive, which is why elliptic curves are widely used. The BSI's recommendation is Meusel to the right, which has a noticeably larger public key. This chart only shows a subset of the available algorithms and only one metric, but is representative of the overall performance cost. The best way to see what this means in practice is to start using these algorithms. So we've been expanding a widely used library called Botan to include post-quantum cryptography. René, can you tell us more about that?
Sure, thanks, Lukas. Together with our project partners, which are Rohde and Schwarz Cybersecurity, Fraunhofer ISEC, and TU Berlin, we're working to provide software development experts with the tools to prepare their products for a quantum computing world. Our colleagues at ISEC built a database comparing performance characteristics of the proposed PQC algorithms. Using this PQDB, specialists can weigh the performance and security trade-offs, kind of like the ones that we've seen presented by Lukas just now. And they can see which of the algorithms fit their needs and fit their needs of the cryptographic protocols they're working on. Along with Rohde and Schwarz, we integrated implementations of both quantum secure Kyber and dilithium algorithms into Botan, with Kyber being already upstream and usable and dilithium currently in review. We're now working on a quantum-ready TLS 1.3 implementation that uses those PQC algorithms for key exchange and server certificate chain validation. This is based on a proposed revision of the TLS protocol called ChemTLS, which is equipped to better cope with the special requirements PQC algorithms pose for cryptographic protocols. For example, they avoid a few signatures that are very expensive with these protocols. And eventually, we're planning to demonstrate the productive applicability of the algorithms integrated into the open source library Botan in commercial products of both Rohde and Schwarz and neXenio. But this is an ongoing process that we will present at a later point. To sum up our presentation, albeit the rapid progress of the field, quantum computers are still a long way from breaking state-of-the-art crypto. That's the good news. We can't even say with certainty that there will ever be a real quantum threat to our current cryptographic protocols. However, standardization of algorithms and protocols, adoption of them, and widespread usage of those quantum-ready algorithms is a massive effort. Remember, we are replacing algorithms that were first invented in the 1970s and received massive scrutiny and field proofing since then. Additionally, these algorithms are hardwired into practically every electronic gadget that communicates with the outside world. Think phones, laptops, and server systems as the clear examples, but also cars, industrial machinery, medical appliances, perhaps, or even credit cards. Companies today must start thinking about where they depend on such crypto that might become vulnerable to quantum attacks in the future. They should also consider their data's and product shelf life and typical update cycles. Being prepared ahead of time is crucial here. Nevertheless, there's no need to panic. The transition has already started, and significant work by many stakeholders and contributors across the globe is already ongoing to keep our modern communication society secure in a quantum computing world. If you want to dive deeper, we left some relevant references below. Well, thank you for listening, and looking
Thanks.
forward to a few questions.
Wonderful, you two guys. Thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you for your thoughts. Let me start with a few questions because we have another 4 minutes left and we want to use them. First question maybe. I saw right now that there are certain links you gave to GitHub repositories and other kind of libraries where people can probably check and look at your kind of the code that you use for these algorithms. Maybe you can say something about the importance of that, one, and then maybe to what extent this is an essential thing in cybersecurity more generally.
Generally, the cybersecurity community depends a lot on the openness and on the collaboration. So algorithms, the cryptographic algorithms usually are considered secure when nobody finds an attack against them. So by open sourcing implementations and open sourcing specifications of those algorithms, the community can help find issues and fix them and make the algorithms better for everybody. So I think open source is a very important part of the strategy in transitioning to post-quantum algorithms.
Okay, René, thank you so much. I see there's a question from the audience, which I will try to read from my screen. So could you please give more information how to use the lithium with X509 certificates? Is that something you can say something about?
The point here is that you will probably have a hard time finding certificates signed by certificate authorities that are using the lithium nowadays already. And that is exactly the point why this whole transition will take so long. You can see how many industry partners and infrastructure providers need to actually switch to these algorithms. But then once certificate authorities like Global Sign or Trust or any of those start providing X509 certificates that are signed with the lithium, I think it is fairly straightforward. It's just the signature is bigger and there's a different algorithm.
Thank you so much for this. One more question from my side at this point. You said something about the transition period already, and this is kind of a lengthy complicated process, to be frank. What is your guess? Like how long can I expect this to take? How long is the transition period, given that I have a certain implementation right now? Maybe what are the key factors that depends upon how long this takes?
Lukas, do you want to maybe?
I can only speculate. I think the time frame of 10 to 15 years is plausible and still generous, right? There have been other algorithms, for example, hash standard. There's been a hash function used 20 years ago or so, which has been retired, and the whole standardization and adoption phase has taken roughly 10 years. One of the issues is that with post-quantum or with cryptography use these days is that it's baked into hardware everywhere, which needs to be rolled out. I feel like there are plenty of mechanisms in place already. Your credit cards expire eventually. Your certificates expire eventually. So pretty much everyone is used to there being some sort of cycle in issuing the kind of new thing, the new way of how things are. So again, to your question, what's the time frame? 10 to 15 years, again, I feel is plausible. Can we make that in that time? I'm fairly optimistic. Do we need to do that? Cryptography is a very conservative field. So better to err on the side of safety and take the performance hit. If we eventually figure out that there's something even more efficient, or maybe we don't need to do this at all, we can always kind of roll back to a more performant version of how things are. But again, things I think are in good shape.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lukas. Thank you, René, for your time, for your insights. Have a good day and enjoy the rest of the conference.